Despite the United States being one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest country in the world, it has over 600,000 people living on the streets or homeless in that country. I'm talking about an emergency that is growing in the country so much that Hawaii just became the third U.S. jurisdiction to declare an emergency state over homelessness. First came LA, then Portland, Oregon, and now statewide in Hawaii, Nick, an emergency about homelessness. Why are they declaring this emergency? Because they need access to special funds. They need a way to break the zoning restrictions that they have to place shelters in order to help these thousands upon thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands, out of the streets and giving them a second chance.
Right, and I know on Hawaii there's a huge meth problem as well, so drugs definitely play a part in that, and it's extremely sad. And at the same time, it's not surprising that you have a lot of homeless people in Hawaii. I mean, think about it. If you were going to be homeless anywhere, I think that would be the best possible place. You don't want to be homeless in Canada, for example. It's freezing. So that point, you know, that given, I mean, they need to do something, obviously, because it's getting out of control. But why the U.S., though? Like you said, we're wealthier than so many countries. They're not the wealthiest. Why is it that we have such a big problem here?
Well, it's a fairly new problem. Back in the 80s, 35 years ago, there was very little homeless people. Everybody could afford the American dream. But there was a collision, a junction of different issues that became a catalyst for this homeless crisis. First, rising income inequality in America, the gap is starting to widen in between the have and the have-nots. Then also we saw the privatization of many mental institutions that were there first for profit and then there to help, sending a lot of these mental health patients that didn't have money to cover their expenses back to the streets. And finally, cuts in low-income housing funds. So those three things back in the 80s collided, and the epidemics of drugs in the 80s, to create an explosion of homelessness. Now we have, just last year, over 500,000 people living on the streets. In Hawaii, we're talking about over 6,500 homeless people. Half of them, they have no shelter whatsoever. They live on the streets and they figure out how to spend the night protected of the weather and the, you know. Also, we're seeing that this is happening in different places. In Los Angeles, we have a serious homeless problem. We needed to declare this emergency to get access to the funds, keep the shelters open 2 more months, and open them 2 months earlier than usual, keep more funding for those transitional housing projects. But also we have to understand that this is the moment to do it because we're about to enter the winter. In the West Coast and the Pacific, we are experiencing El Niño conditions. We'll bring, you know, on normal levels of rain, of snow to these areas and regions, and I think that these local governments and state governments are looking into how to prevent the death of homeless people, although there's something that we need to talk about too, that is the way they've been addressing so far. Before they declare these states of emergency, there has been a wave of criminalization of homelessness that is very dangerous and that we have to look out because in many places they have imposed municipal laws to make being homeless a criminal, and they can put you in jail if you're sleeping in the sideways. They go and destroy the homeless camps, and they just, you know, leave them in a worse situation than they were before. Granted, it's a public health problem, but at the same time, we need to bring the humane aspect to this issue. What do you think?
Without a doubt. I mean, 6,500 people, that is a huge number, especially given the small population of Hawaii. That is huge. And I think another thing that we have to realize is, it's not surprising also that we have so many vets. We probably have more vets in this country than any other country. So that's also definitely playing into this. And a lot of people tie Ronald Reagan to a lot of these problems back in the 80s as well. So it goes really far back, and we are now really taking drastic measures so many years later. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, well, with this declaration of emergency states, Los Angeles got access to $13 million in funds to fight homelessness. Hawaii got access to $1.5 million. So the only important thing is that, yes, everything is positive. They will help this homeless population to get back on their feet. But also we have to be vigilant that they don't use these funds to further criminalize homeless populations in this country. We want to know your opinion. Share them below in the comment section. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the LibTV 2.